Good morning. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. It's World Cup day again for England today. They're playing Panama, so it's an early start. The sun is shining, and hopefully the sun will be shining down on England again later today as we get another good result. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm just waiting for the Andrew Marr show. But I thought I'd talk a little bit more about Airfreight and Prestwick Airport because I thought it would help in terms of to try and get the message across to those of you that are involved in Prestwick Airport in making decisions up there. And for anybody else who might be just interested in the media or from other walks of life up there in Scotland. First of all, in terms of air freight, and let's be clear on air freight and what it really consists of. Well, let's go a bit before that. Let's talk about air freight. Air freight is actually a very small part of overall international freight. Quite honestly, it's no more than 1% of the total freight that is shipped all across the world. 99% of freight is by ship. That's a fact. You know, I'm saying 1%. Some years it's just under 1%. Some years it's marginally just slightly more. But it's 1% of air freight is all it is. But of that air freight, because of the value of products, it contributes something like 25% of the value of freight. So it may only be 1% of total international freight, but it contributes about 25% of the value of freight. So it has an important factor. Now, what are the kind of things that make it valuable for freight? Well, apart from gold bars, which tend not to go in shipping containers anyway, but there are many products. There are high-end fashion items that have to reach certain locations throughout the world at various times. I'm sorry, I'm just being distracted by some birds flying in and out of the garden. High-end fashion items that have to get to certain locations across the world just on time. You know, fashions are changing all the time. Places like Zara, for example, that have outlets across the world. A lot of their garments are air freighted. Car parts. Cars may be assembled in one location, but parts for cars will come from 20, 30 different locations throughout the world. Again, these tend to be air freighted because it's a just-in-time situation and it's more cost effective than buying container load and sending stuff over, because models and processes do change. I can recall leather seats of various colours being manufactured in South Africa and being air freighted into Germany for BMW, for example. So it's that type of product. Then we have the vaccines and medicines and these kind of things which have a value to be at their destinations just in time. They're temperature controlled, and it's far easier to control products with a temperature gauge by air freight than it is on a shipping container. I'm not saying it's impossible to do it with shipping containers, but it is more difficult to maintain a constant temperature when you're shipping something on in a container on a ship compared with air freighting it. We have all the perishable goods as well. Perishable goods like the fresh fish, fresh meats, fresh dairy produce, these type of products that are obviously air freighted to various parts of the world, and that makes significant difference as well. And then we have things like flowers and stuff like that. Flowers, that predominantly grown. I know they're grown around the world, but many flowers that are grown in mass in places like Holland are shipped all across the world, and I know for a fact flowers are also air freighted. So what's the now difference between air freight and passenger freight? Because something else I think people may or may not be aware of, a majority of air freight actually goes in the belly of passenger aircraft as well. A large proportion of freight that travels around the world goes with passengers. Not all. Where there's bulk in freight movement required, there are freighters, air freighters, that actually shift that product in and out as well. A 777, for example, with passengers, there's probably around 30 tons of space available for air freight. But if you're talking about just an air freighter, 777 for freight, you're probably talking there in the region of just over 100 tons. I'm sort of looking at that in moving fish, which I've been looking at moving fish into different parts of the world, and a 777 will take just over 100 tons of salmon as a freighter. But the maximum you'll get into a passenger aircraft, probably not even 30 tons, probably more like 20. And then of course there's the fact that do people want to be flying with a lot of fish close to their luggage? But just to give you an idea of the balance of freight and how it works. Now freight is very different to passengers. Some people say, well, passengers are more difficult to control. And passengers complain a lot and freight doesn't. Well, yes, it's to some respects. But let's think about comparing passengers with freight when it comes to aircraft movement. Most passengers, in fact 99.9% of passengers, get on an aircraft and they fly somewhere, they're flying back. They're flying back home. They fly out and they fly back. They might go a different route coming back to when they went out, but they're coming back. In the case of freight, it's going in one direction. It doesn't come back. Very unlikely it comes back. It goes and it doesn't come back. So that's the first issue that freight management have got to deal with, because, for example, and we had this problem in the Middle East, for example, where we were sending plenty of goods into the Gulf region, full air freight shipments, but it was very difficult to find product to bring back. Okay, that was a difficult scenario. The same was with the Chinese. The Chinese were sending lots and lots of products to Europe and to the United States, but very little was going back at a particular point in time. And that obviously causes issues, because it is expensive to air freight in comparison with sea freight, but it's even more expensive when you're flying back with just fresh air in the hold and nothing else, as you can imagine. So that's the first difference that has to be managed and managed carefully when you're looking at air freight situations. As a key, I'm talking about as a key issue. What else are we talking about with freight? Well, freight comes in, passengers are generally the same size. Some are slightly taller than others, but they all fit into a seat. And the seats are all the same size in economy, all the same size in business, all the same size in first class. You know, they have a variety of sizes, but they are very easily manageable. Passengers are more or less the same size. Some do come with wheelchairs, which have to be assisted, but generally it's the same process all the way through the process of getting onto flights and getting off flights. With freight, air freight, it's a different scenario. You could have items this size, you could have items as big as this room. So managing the cubic mass of freight becomes more difficult. It is more difficult to plan that process of moving freight around. So that requires a skill which takes 2 or 3 days in advance to get that right in the hold as to what you're putting onto the aircraft. And that is obviously difficult. On top of that, all our passengers tend to be similar. They might like vegetarian meals instead of this meal or whatever. But with freight, some freight has to be secure with keeping it cooler. Some has to be kept warmer. Some has to be able to breathe. So there are various requirements with freight that are different from one item to another item, and some are hazardous. Some have got hazardous materials, so they become dangerous items to fly in. So if you could get, you can really understand and appreciate, I think, what I'm saying about moving freight. So freight is actually not easy in comparison with passengers, despite passengers complaining. Freight has got a lot more complexities. I think the last point about freight is whereas passengers tend to pay for their flights, their seats, their tickets, they pay in advance. Before they get on the plane, they pay and they get on the flight and they go. When it comes to air freight, airlines tend to get that fee after they've completed the job. So they don't get paid in advance. They get paid once they've got the goods from A to B. And that's how air freight tends to work, as does shipping generally. So there are some differences. And there are many other differences as well. I'm just giving you some of the main differences. Now, I'm trying to get the Scottish ministers clear, because I hear glib comments like, well, you can't sell passengers. If you can't get passengers on a flight, you won't get freight on a flight, and blah, 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 blah. Glibly just casting things aside and making it impossible. Well, we put a lot of research into Prestwick Airport, and we looked at freight very carefully. Now, we weren't looking at freight going out of Prestwick that was going to go into the hold, because there aren't any holes for it to go into. In most cases, there are very few flights going into Prestwick. We were looking at freight very much for the full air freighters that were coming in and out of the UK, particularly all of those that are on the North Circle route that handle the Northern Hemisphere of flying, east, west, west, east. And we were looking at Prestwick with the simple fact that a freighter in and out of Prestwick will be able to get in and out far more economically when it comes to jet fuel in comparison with flying in and out of Heathrow. That was the key. Now, the other objective, of course, was the freight hold. We could see opportunity for freight in terms of what could go out, and we could see opportunities of freight as what could come in. I'm not going to mention those on this video because some of you will obviously know. I mean, the obvious one going out is the salmon, but there are many others going out, and there are many others coming in. And those are due to the negotiations and time we spent with key manufacturers in other parts of the world, and some key airlines that expressed interest in investment opportunities to develop Prestwick as a feed hub for their central hubs in the Middle East and the Far East. Now, Emirates obviously is a company I know very well. I've done a lot of work with, done a lot of business with. Qatar I know very well. Singapore Airlines I know very well. Cathay Pacific in Hong Kong I know very well. And Lufthansa I know very well. And of course, not forgetting British Airways. The key is product has to be picked up in a mass, going out, for example, from Scotland, so it can go out in mass on a freighter. It can get to the central hub, which might be Dubai, might be Doha, might be Singapore, could be anywhere. It gets to the central point where a distribution facility splits it up, and there it goes onto the belly holes of passenger aircraft to get to the 140, 150 destinations around the world it's going to. Now, that's the process we set up for Prestwick, so that the Prestwick became a mini hub for Scotland, Northern England, Ireland, for those products that require air freight going out. It currently has a different system operating out of Scotland. It's going on roads to a large extent down to Heathrow in the UK, or Schiphol in Netherlands, and it's being distributed that way, or it's going to smaller airports and going out in belly holes. But the factors are, it's going out through an inefficient process of marketing it to go further as well. There are many more destinations that can be reached with a more efficient logistical chain of taking it to the right location. Logistics I have an issue with in terms of the UK at the moment, because Heathrow, and I know there's a lot of debate about Heathrow. Heathrow's been given the go-ahead for the extra runway, more or less. It's still not 100%. Heathrow's been there a long time. It's already at capacity, and those of you that fly in and out of Heathrow will know it's a disaster in compared with other parts of the world when it comes to airports. And we have this view in the UK that we should be putting all our freight and passengers through the same large terminus, as if you like, for getting it through the process. So freighters and freight, I'm talking about full freighters now, not passenger whole freighters, all going, landing and taking off on the same runways, etc. To me, it's ludicrous. I mean, it doesn't have to happen that way. You know, we should be taking air freight, I'm talking about the bulk air freight, away from the Heathrow passenger location and taking it away from that densely populated area where traffic is you know, the network's just, to me, it's reached its limit. It's gone beyond reaching its limit, and the cost to fix it is too great. And I just give an example of Dubai. Dubai, for example, which has got masses of space compared with London, in every possible way. They've got the desert, okay, and they've built a big airport infrastructure at Dubai International. When it comes to their air freight, their bulk air freight, they take that in through a different airport closer to Jebel Ali, which is and link it up with a significant network of vehicle links. So bulk comes in and out of the Jebel Ali airport, and the bulk cargo I'm talking about, and then it gets split up and taken to the various docking stations for passenger aircraft into the holding bays to get out into the 150 destinations. Now that's the type of thing Heathrow should be thinking about. In really, they should be building a separate location altogether for handling their freight. And in their wisdom, they're not doing it that way. They are looking at it in a well, I don't know, with politicians and so-called experts are looking at it totally differently. And I understand they want to make the most of where aircraft are going at the moment and everything else. But, you know, it's up to the commerce around the country to build infrastructures that are going to suit where transport goes, to be honest. I mean, that's what it should be looking at. So a lot of fresh salmon that starts up in the west coast of Scotland, in the western areas of Scotland, coming down the motorways, as being stuck in traffic for hours and hours and hours, and then eventually getting to Heathrow, staying in a queue, and then trying to be, some of it might be going to a hub in Hong Kong or Dubai, but some of it will be going, splitting up in various directions already, going to other parts of the world. It's a nightmare, it's a disaster, and it all adds to the cost of the product going into the market. And what we've been persuading and trying to get them to do is to look at the relationships with the best that are doing things out there and making them work. Here's a video I want to show you now on the Dubai DWC to start with, in terms of how Dubai have given their thoughts into handling freight, not just air freight, but shipping freight as well, and keeping that infrastructure away from the mayhem of passenger freight. I think that's important to see that. Have a look at this.
Fueled by a bold ambition and a legacy of trade, Dubai continues to evolve as a centre of global commerce. Leading this drive, Dubai World Central embodies a vision which will establish Dubai as the largest and most connected cargo and logistics hub on the planet. DWC is here to connect you to this future today, in partnership with 4 world-class organisations. Jebel Ali Port, operated by DP World, is the largest marine terminal in the Middle East. With a 20-minute direct corridor to DWC, you have hassle-free air, sea and land access to the region. Donata is one of the world's leading air service providers, offering 24/7 operations with a wealth of innovative services and products, including cranes, trailers, multi-axle ways, drive-off from aircrafts, plus MOD certified storage and work areas. Dubai South, a visionary master plan city, is home to the Logistics District. Located alongside Dubai World Central, Logistics District is fast establishing itself as the hub for logistics companies, freight forwarders and traders. Dubai South also offers 100% foreign business ownership, with a range of office and warehouse spaces. Dubai World Central is powered by Emirates Sky Cargo's Sky Central Freighter Terminal, offering extensive storage capacity for temperature-sensitive goods. And with Dubai International just 60 kilometres away, Emirates Sky Cargo's bonded corridor provides rapid transshipment in under 5 hours. Positioned at the geocentre of global trade, within 4 hours of 1/3 of the global population, DWC connects you to a world of opportunities. So if cargo is your business, DWC is your partner. To start a conversation, email airline.development@dubaiairports.ae and connect with the future of cargo today.
Hi there. Well, as you can see, that was pretty straightforward. And following on from that, here's another little video that just shows you now, that was a diagram, obviously. Here's an actual video that shows the actual trucking links between the Jebel Ali hub and Dubai International Airport and how it works in reality, which is, again, quite straightforward. For those of you that are enthusiasts in that sort of thing, enjoy it. For those of you who are not, please excuse how boring it must be for you. Now, I think, there are products that sit all over the world that require air freight, as I mentioned before. In this next video, simple little video, again, animated video, here's how Emirates, as an example, are taking lobsters from the North Atlantic and taking them across to the Far East to various locations, and how they're handling the process. Again, this is an animated video just to give it simplicity, and basically it's describing what I've already said. Here it is.
With modern air travel, getting something from A to B should be relatively easy. But when your starting point is the Atlantic Ocean, and your end point is a restaurant in China, and your passenger is a lobster, things can get a little more complicated. The journey begins in the icy cold waters near Boston, where fishermen troll for the region's most coveted seafood. The lobsters are then transported back to shore in a cold saltwater bath. Now enter Emirates Sky Cargo. Lobsters are loaded into special containers and wrapped in a unique white cover, keeping them chilly at 11 degrees Celsius. A cold lobster is a happy lobster. Once loaded onto the Emirates 777 aircraft, they set out on a journey to Dubai. Upon arrival, they are transported in temperature-controlled containers, keeping them perfectly cool. Sky Cargo's fleet of refrigerated trucks delivers some of the lobsters throughout the UAE. The remaining are shipped to our top 4 lobster-loving destinations: Shanghai, Taipei, Guangzhou, Bangkok. 135 tons of lobsters are shipped every month out of Boston. That's 54,000 lobsters. From sea to table. Cool, fast, and fresh. Emirates Sky Cargo, providing world-class cool chain solutions for the seafood industry.
Okay, well, I've given you a variety of products that use air freight. Here's fresh flowers from tulips from Amsterdam. This is a real video now, showing the actual product of being prepared in Holland, being taken across to the DWC, and then shipped out through the international airport back to Russia, as an example. Have a look at this.
Home to the world's largest flower market. How does Emirates Sky Cargo deliver exquisite flowers as fresh as the moment they were picked? Sky Cargo delivers what matters most to people, globally. With the youngest and most advanced fleet in the air, state-of-the-art cold chain facilities at Emirates Sky Central in Dubai, and a network of over 150 destinations, we connect exotic flowers and gifts of love every day.
And let's continue with the theme of looking at another product. Let's look at the pharmaceutical products that get shipped. This is again Emirates Airlines that are taking vaccines, the high quality small vaccines that have to be kept temperature controlled. A lot of these are made in India that are being shown in this video, shipped through the hub and going across to the United States. But again, vaccines is an area that Scotland has a plant that's manufacturing vaccines, as is various parts of Ireland. So have a look at this video and see how they work. Very similar way, but I want to give you an idea of how the process works.
Home to one of the world's largest vaccine manufacturing facilities. How does Emirates Sky Cargo deliver these time and temperature sensitive medicines on time and intact? Every day, Emirates Sky Cargo delivers what matters most to people. With the youngest and most advanced fleet in the air, state-of-the-art cool chain facilities at Emirates Sky Central, and a network of over 150 destinations, we connect healthcare and well-being every day.
Okay, here's another one now. This is one that's close to my heart. This is, well, Norwegian salmon's not close to my heart. Scottish salmon is, and this should be Scottish salmon that should be executing this one. Norwegian salmon over the last 5 years have stormed the international market, particularly in the Far East. With they sell more salmon now as sushi into Japan and parts of China than they do actually sell fish for cooking purposes. But I mean, Norway's salmon exports last year was something like £5.9 billion to Scotland's £650 million. It gives you a rough idea. And you know, people say Scottish salmon is far superior to Norwegian salmon. Whether, look, it's a nice fish. Both are nice fish at the top end. But Norway have exploited their sales market by using the right distribution methods compared with what Scottish salmon have done and the Scottish authorities. And we've obviously had a lot to say on this, but have a look at this video.
Home to the finest salmon in the world. How does Emirates Sky Cargo deliver this magnificent fish so it arrives as fresh as if just harvested? Every day, Emirates Sky Cargo delivers what matters most to people globally. With the youngest and most advanced fleet in the air, state-of-the-art cool chain facilities at Emirates Sky Central, and a network of over 150 destinations, we connect fine produce and gourmet dining every day.
Okay, that gives me. I think I've talked enough about air freight and shown enough about air freight and given you a lot of information about air freight, and I hope it's proven useful. And yeah, if you would like any more information on how to turn your airport around or improve your marketing strategy with freight throughout the world, give us a call. Okay, talk to you later. Bye bye.